away the secrets.
Today we're going to be talking about some tips on how to achieve realism in your art. Whether that is photorealistic, hyperrealistic, or just realistic, either way, there are going to be some fundamentals, some things that are going to help you see and create the colors and values that you want easier. You know, I really get confused sometimes when people seem to think when you are talking about and giving away fundamentals of art that have been around a long time, people seem to think that you should be locked up and carted away to jail. So suffice it to say, in order to achieve realism in your paintings, you're going to have to be able to see colors and values correctly. Let's get into some tips on how we can do that. Number one, I know a lot of you guys, like me, are really tied into our tablets. I've got an iPhone or an iPad Pro. I love my iPad Pro. It allows me to zoom in. I can see little tiny details and things like that. This is for a customer painting that I'm going to be using. However, there are things I don't like to use my iPad for. Whenever I'm going to paint something very realistically, I like to take and print out a matte photograph. Matte. Specific reasons. Don't know how well you can tell that on the camera, but there's a huge difference in being able to view color, how you view color on a screen like this versus how you would view color in a photograph. I've been using my Canon IX6820 photo printers from print to 13 by 19 for a long time. Investing in a quality photo printer will help you be able to create, good photographs. Also important to understand that the color in your monitor is probably not very accurate. Most of us, unless you've got a really expensive computer monitor or something like that, the color that you see on your screen is probably not very accurate, especially if it's not been calibrated. Those of you that don't use Photoshop or anything like that probably are not used to creating profiles to make sure that your prints come out exactly as the camera intended. In my case, my iPad Pro has a profile that makes sure that when I print, it's actually accurate to what the original photograph taken is. Okay, so as I was saying, in order to get color accurately, I have currently got this picture up in Procreate. And Procreate has an excellent color picker. I can come through here and zoom in pixel by pixel and find out actually what color I have in that location. The problem becomes when you're looking at a glossy screen like that and you're trying to match that color up with your eye, it can become very difficult to get an exact match. Also, because if you notice, because it's glossy, it looks a little more vibrant. Also, regardless of what screen you have, is going to be producing color, not in pigments, but it's going to be producing color in RGB lighting, which is going to be a little bit different than the color you would have for a print. So if you haven't followed any of that and any color theory or anything like that, it's important to understand the difference between when you have a screen, you got RGB color. When you're printing a photo with a printer, you are using CMYK, and most likely, if you're working with pigments, you are working with the traditional red, yellow, blue, black, white. So make sure when you get a color wheel that you're working with a color wheel that is based on pigments. I like to use the real color wheel a lot, and I will leave you guys a link down in the description for that. It doesn't cost anything, it's free, and that's the one I like to work with the most. But the most accurate color wheel you can use is the one that you make yourself. If you're not really solid on mixing colors, I will leave you a link to some color theory and color mixing videos, and I will leave a little card up that'll pop up the beginning of color mixing videos for you. This right here is a painting that I'm working on for a customer. It's not quite done yet, but it's almost done. I want you to look at this color right here underneath the handkerchief, right there. I want you to picture in your mind what color you think that is. All right, so what I like to do is, of course, I would do this on the photo that I was taking, trying to replicate, but I like to take and punch a hole in a piece of cardstock, and then I will place that over the area in which I'm trying to match. And if you look at that, that probably looks quite a bit darker than what you thought that color was at first glance. Now, details can matter, and obviously, if I take, this is one of my paintings, and if I show you this painting, obviously there's a pretty significant amount of detail in this painting. And there's a lot of subtle tones that are really, really close to the same colors in this painting. But the amount of detail in this painting isn't the important part of this painting. This is another one of my paintings. And this one has a pretty good bit of detail in it as well. However, I've showed this in another video in the past. I'm going to gray this out on my screen and let you see. What matters is that the value is correct. The value being the most important character next to proportion. Of course, if proportions are messed up, then you've got a problem. Now, there's a couple of things at play that make a difference in how your eyes perceive color, which is why I pulled out this little cardstock. There's a couple of different types of contrast that come into play. One of them is successive contrast, which really, successive contrast only happens for a short period of time. If you stare at something bright red for a little bit and then take your eyes away from it for the first short period of time after you look at a green, your green will look more vibrant from having looked at the red. The next one of those things is simultaneous contrast. Simultaneous contrast, I've talked about it before, and of course there's the link over to my color theory video so you can understand a little bit more about it. But simultaneous contrast has to do with how colors appear when they're next to other colors. And there are some laws and rules written about that. We're not going to go that deep into it. But those are the reasons that being able to tone in to accurately get a picture of what you want to see is important. By the way, guys, I know it has been a long time since you have seen me in here. It's been since August the last time I made a video. I have remodeled most of the studio. If you guys seen my old studio, you know what it looked like. We're not done yet, and I did a bunch of other remodeling and painted over 25 paintings since the last time we spoke. So I want to say, sorry, it's been a while. But anyway, let's go on into my spray area here, and then I will go into the spray area and I will talk some more about. Okay, so now we are in here in my spray area, and this is my little magnetic easel, as you can see. Of course, that's a white surface, so, and this may not apply to everybody. Some of you will be painting off an easel, but it's important that this surface behind you, one, you don't want it to be reflective, because your light is going to bounce off that and interfere, and it's going to create problems with your eye and not allow you to see contrast well. So you want a flat surface. Preferably, this would be a neutral gray. It's not. This is a black, but it is a black matte surface that doesn't reflect a whole lot of light, and white would reflect a lot of light, so that will interfere. It'll cause problems with your eyes. It'll overpower your eyes and make it hard to see things. Okay, now also, in addition to this, and I don't want this to mess with things, starting out with your big white canvas, of course this is still white here, I've got my sketch in. I came in and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with my background yet, so what I did is I put a neutralish gray on the background so that I have something there, so that the white isn't so overpowering. So as I start filling things in, I can see how this is shaping up without the white distorting things. Because when you place something next to a white image, it's going to appear different than when you place something against something with some tone and value. And this one, it probably appears pretty dark in here to you guys. Of course, I've got this light that drops down at my easel. How much light I have behind me really doesn't affect anything. The question is how well I light my easel without shadows. Right now, I've got a few shadows. I have some other lighting I can set up in here. So it's important that the light you use is the correct color, and I'm going to be changing this light out. So what you're looking for are daylight bulbs or daylight LEDs now, or something along that line, and you want something called a high CRI, at least 90 plus CRI to do art with. In my case, in this room, during the daylight, I have an amazing light setup in here because I have two large windows that are facing north that allow north light to come in, which is the perfect situation. Obviously, not everybody has access to natural daylight in their studios. I moved my spray area and my easel to this room in particular so that I could have outdoor lighting coming from the north side. If you guys happen to know, I'm thinking about getting a new printer. I'm thinking about getting in the Canon Pro Series printers. So if you have any experience in that, please drop me a comment down below. Let me know your opinions and thoughts on that. My IX6820 has been amazing for over 3 years now. However, it is 3 years old, and I'm thinking eventually it's going to die. It's printed thousands of photos. Secondly, I'm looking for some high CRI clip-on LED light bulbs. LED lights, if you guys know of some that you recommend, I would be glad to listen to that. I know a whole lot of what I talked about today are about dealing with your eyes, and it is truly very, very important that you understand how you perceive color and how that is controlled will be helpful to you. It also makes less fatigue. Having good lighting in this particular room, when I remodeled the studio, the lights that I have in the ceiling are 95 plus CRI daylight can lights in here, or they're not can lights, they're actually LEDs. So in this room, I have excellent lighting for art. I do need a little bit better in there other than when it's daylight. So it's very hard to overstress how important it is to have good and proper lighting, to be able to use isolation, and to make sure that you don't have outside influences creating problems with how you're looking at color. If you have light bulbs that are really off in color, or you have some kind of weird lighting surface going, it could even simply be you could have a blue wall painted next to you and bouncing light off that, and then it would create a blue cast on your painting, so your painting would look bad. So in that case, I painted everything in there white. And that is a very important, these are very, very important tips. And like again, I will drop links to the color theory videos, and you can check out some of my other videos. Let me know what it is you want to know about, and I will get back with you guys. I'm Bill Kennedy with the Airspace. I do appreciate each and every one of you. I am so happy to be back on YouTube today. Anyway, y'all have a good one. We appreciate you.